I'm Sean Lether, a Spiritual Awakenings International Advisory Board member and the founder and leader of Hawaiian Ions. I'm so honored to welcome you to the Spiritual Awakenings International Conference 2026 Near-Death Experiencers panel. We have some amazing, inspiring panelists tonight. We have Dr. Holly Porter, Leena Zafary, Gary Wimmer, and Sharon Kumara. So we will start off with Dr. Holly Porter. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Holly as our first speaker. After a life-changing near-death experience and spiritually transformative experience during a 7-day hospitalization, Holly returned with profound insights and a mission to help others integrate their own extraordinary experiences. An international speaker, author of 17 books, and founder of both Retreat RnR and the Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, Holly now teaches her SHIFT method, 5 spiritual keys for navigating life after an awakening experience. Please help me welcome Dr. Holly Porter.
All right. Almost 5 years ago, I was fighting for my life during a 70-day hospital stay with COVID, um, intubations, placed on a ventilator, experienced sepsis, and I spent weeks in a coma. And during that time, I experienced a profound spiritual encounters that forever changed how I see life, purpose, and humanity. And what I came back with was not fear of death. It was a deeper understanding of how to truly live. The shift method was born from what I experienced during the NDE and spiritual transformative experiences. And these 5 keys became anchors for rebuilding my life, my purpose, and my identity after returning. So, what is a shift? Well, it's a spiritual recalibration after awakening, and it stands for surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation. The moment that everything changed for me, I couldn't breathe. I went to the ER, and that started the first of 70 days in the hospital. I had 2 intubations, a trachea, a sepsis, or not a sepsis, and some other infections that could have taken me out at any time. So the severity of my condition was really scary, and anxiety is no joke. So if any of you suffer from that, I had never suffered from that before, but when you can't breathe, you kind of get a little anxious. And all my senses at one point were gone. So taste and smell were gone from COVID. I couldn't feel anything because they would tie your hands to the bed with the ventilator, so I couldn't touch anything. I'm past legally blind without correction, so I couldn't see who anyone was unless they were about 8 inches in front of my face. And then they all were wearing their hat and their mask and their gowns and gloves and eye protection, so everybody looked the same to me. And the ventilator took like 90% of my hearing away. So everybody sounded like the Charlie Brown, if you're old enough to remember that, like the school teacher. Wah, wah, wah. So that is where I was. So like when they would put me in a coma, I was happy to be there. Get me out of here because I was having some amazing experiences on the other side. And I had to learn everything again. It was really the biggest challenge I have ever had up till now. Hopefully the biggest challenge I will ever have again. I had to learn to breathe and swallow and sit up and stand and walk again. But I had encounters beyond physical reality. And I was blessed to have many OBEs, out of body experiences, an STE, and a near death experience. And the messages I received will forever change me. And hopefully they will help me change others. That's the plan. So, feeling and being between worlds, I spent time in a stadium of light with hundreds of other beings. And there was so much to see and feel. And we all spoke through our minds. And I had a life review that only showed me the good. And later, I was told because that's what matters. And what a God of love to show me only the good. I've done plenty of naughty things, and I felt very blessed that at that time, that is what I saw. And I had the profound awareness that consciousness continues being shown that love matters more than any achievement that we can accomplish. I realized that we are far more than our physical bodies, and I experienced connection, guidance, and overwhelming love unlike anything here on earth. So, we're going to start talking about our shift. So, the first one is surrender. One of the first lessons I learned was surrender, not defeat, surrender. And I had spent my life trying to hold everything together, solve everything, control the outcomes. But during my experience, I learned that healing often begins when we finally release control. Surrender is not giving up, it's releasing control. And some things I'd like you to hear is we need to let go of certainty and we need to release our fear. Stop resisting what's unfolding and being shown to us. There's a reason that is happening. Allow divine guidance. Sometimes surrender is where the miracle enters. We just don't know it. Are you leaving that door open for the possibilities? The next one is hope. Hope carried me through recovery. There were moments my family didn't know if I would survive. I didn't know if I would survive. Yet somehow there was always this thread of hope, this knowing that there was still purpose ahead. Hope is remembering light exists even when you can't see it. There is hope during darkness. Spiritual resilience shows up when we least expect it. The power of meaning and the power of belief when I chose life again was everything. Hope carried me through recovery, and it gave me strength when I thought I had lost it. My spiritual experience was really at a hard time when I was ready to give up in the hospital. There were some long days that I didn't want to relive. And my prayers were changing. If you're not going to get me better, then get me out of here. I'm ready. Total surrender. And my mom, who had passed away about a year and a half before that, she came to my right side many times I was in there. But this time was the first time she spoke to me. And she said, it's not your time, and you need to fight. And when she said the word fight, all of these beings in white who had passed on, relatives and people I knew and loved, came above my bed and they started chanting, fight, fight, fight. I even had a grandbaby that had passed away 5 months before that as a baby, and she was an adult, and I knew it was her. And as they chanted fight, every time a whole new group of people would come behind them now in street clothes who I knew were living. And I saw my husband and my kids and my siblings and friends. And I just kept seeing rows and rows and rows of people, thousands of people. And it was that defining moment when I knew that I was going to live. Like I had all this support. Later, I thought about it, and I think all those people I kept seeing that I didn't know were the prayer lists that I was on all over the world. I had friends all over the world. This is during COVID, not everything was open. And I just felt so blessed that I was able to see that. It was a really long road back. I had a lot of health issues, still have long COVID, but I knew at that point it defined you're going to live. And the message for me was that my story wasn't over. So we're going to talk about intuition now. So after my experience, my intuition became amplified, and I began to understand that intuition is not irrational. It's intelligence beyond logic. And I had messages that I kept getting. In fact, I got told more will be revealed to you when the time is right. And I thought, good, because it was a lot. It was a lot to handle, especially with all the health issues I was having. And usually I'm like, I want to know right now. I want to know everything. But I was so grateful that I didn't remember everything. And so it's kind of been like, oh, what am I going to learn this year? The rest of the story. And one of the things I was shown was a tree. And in one of the businesses I was creating that was part of my near-death story, I was doing the marketing and I asked them that I said, the logo needs to have a tree in it. I just knew that. And so when they came back, the tree ended up having 11 leaves and 11 roots on it. And I was just like, wow, okay, I'll take it. Because that was the day I got out of the hospital. There were so many, that's a great number for everybody, 1111. But it was just like telling me you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, you're listening, which I haven't always done my whole life. But I loved that there was more symbolism coming and there was more to the story. Another thing that I was told was love them where they're at. And I have really worked to bring that into my life on a daily basis. I remind myself of that because it does take the judgment away of things. We tend to be judgy, and at least I do. And it's just like if you love them where they're at, it just takes that away. So that's been another really good message that I got. And what if the answers that you seek already, what are they trying to teach you? Because I feel like everybody has intuition. We just don't always listen to it. And your soul speaks to you just like it speaks to me. Most people have simply forgotten how to listen. And a couple things I want you to listen to is the inner knowing and listen to discernment because we have it. Those divine nuggets that come. And sometimes it's just that gut feeling that we don't listen to or we push it away thinking it's nothing. And then later we're like, ah, I kind of had that feeling and I should have listened. And I'm sure we've all experienced that. I have. Listen for the alignment over the fear and push that fear down. The next one is faith. Faith became different for me after my NDE. It was no longer just a belief, it became an experience. And returning with a mission, oh, I had no choice. I just got sent back. And I probably would have stayed, to be honest. I'm sure other people have said that as well. But I felt like God's my higher power, whatever that is for anyone else. But I felt like God handed me this life Bible and the ending was written. And I just have to go fill in the other pages. And who gets that? I mean, I feel so grateful every day for that. The in-between pages aren't always going to be easy, but they're mine. And I know the end result and I know the philanthropy that's going to come out of it. And it's just, I feel so blessed for that. I was told in my near-death experience to start this nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish. I was not given a mission. That has been an evolving story of where we started with our mission and then when it didn't work out so well and then we changed the mission and now it's working out perfectly. And sometimes you just have to know, you have to stop and just listen and then adapt because things do change. And there's been a lot of grief throughout all this process and hardships and
Oh,
continuing life
we need to wrap it.
despite, I'm sorry.
We need to wrap it up. We're running out of
Oh,
time.
okay. How much longer do I have?
Less than a minute.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Let me just, okay. Transformation is the end result. And let me slide on here. Gosh, I only timed me at 13 minutes every time I did it. All right.
You
And
know what?
then,
You can take an extra minute if you need it because I just remembered we started a little late. So
oh, okay. I'm like, I've never taken that long, but that's okay. All right, no problem. So then it's just the awareness of realizing where you are and where you want to be and how will you shift and what you're being called to release. It's the beginning for you. And what purpose is waiting on the other side of your fear? And then I just want to say, we don't go through profound experiences simply to survive them. We go then through them to become more fully alive. And if you'd like a deeper dive, you can go and check out my book. You can scan the QR code, and that will get you there. It's called Near Death Shift and What Dying Taught Me About Life, Business, and Purpose. And thank you for being here and listening.
Thank you so much, Holly. That's beautiful. And you remind us that the real work begins most often after the near-death experience. So thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to now go to our next speaker. Our next panelist is Leena Zafary, a transformational speaker, author, and founder of IONS Las Vegas, which is an affiliated SAI group. Drawing from multiple spiritually transformative experiences and her work in consciousness studies, bioacoustic biology, and vibrational healing, um, Leena helps experiencers bridge the gap between extraordinary waking and everyday life. In a presentation, After the Life, the Magnanimous Journey, she will explore how we can move from overwhelm to alignment, integrate our gifts, and live with greater purpose, compassion, and vibrational harmony. Please join me in welcoming Leena Zafary. Welcome, Leena.
Hi, thank you so much. Boy, things evolve a little bit faster in real life or in that world. But yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm so happy and honored to be here. Dr. Kaysan and everybody on the SAI team, thank you for creating this space, this platform, and for this conversation to take place. Okay, well, today, the presentation is called The Return to Coherence. Ta-da! The Return to Coherence. So this talk actually explores what happens to the human system after expanded consciousness. Because for me, my near-death experience and all the spiritually transformative experiences, it awakened and expanded me in ways that I had no language. But coherence actually taught me how to live afterwards. So awakening expands perception. Through all these wonderful talks we've heard today, it increases sensitivity, it increases our perception, it increases our emotional, energetic, mental, spiritual, everything about us just becomes almost kind of like open wires, sensitivity everywhere. And without coherence, that expansion can actually become fragmentation because there's just input coming from everywhere, like truckloads. And that is expansion, the awareness. So I had expanded awareness. In 2014, I had a near-death experience, and I too was, in the hospital for 9 days through one of those social viruses, H1N1, like COVID. And here I am again, right? But after all those experiences, my human system, it still needed integration. I was consciously awake. I knew things were happening, but it didn't feel coherent in my body yet. And it was not comfortable. So awakening, awakening is something that expands your awareness, but it does not automatically create an integrated person. Experiencers come back very, very very changed when they return. And that shows up in the relationships to self, the relationship to everything outside of us. And between that, the identity changes multiple times. There are so many collapses and so many so many changes. I'm sorry, I moved my scroll. There we go. That it actually creates overwhelm in the nervous system. It really is. Its sensitivity is not. It's not light. It creates a lot of craziness in the system. But coherence actually stabilizes awakening. Coherence is when the mind, the body, the emotions, all of it become in the same expression when they move in harmony. And HeartMath Institute actually measures coherence. This is a measurable state. This is a state we can intentionally learn to get into. And what I learned that awakening is the beginning, like many of us have said, but it is the integration that helps us. And it's where it becomes life for us. Integration is not about becoming somebody new. It is about becoming fully you. We don't need to become whole, because we just need to remember that we really are whole. We come back, but we have to kind of get into that coherent space, because when we do, we go from knowing to actually being. We start to embody what we once understood. We go from insight to alignment, because it helps us make better choices. And that reflects in our daily life. We go from effort to flow. Things really do just flow into our life when we learn to get into coherence. And from separation to connection, we no longer see ourselves separate from the world. We start to see the connection of everything with us and to us, from people to experiences. We understand better. And then we go from survival to significance. We start to contribute our own unique medicine to the world, because awareness lights the way. Integration is walking the path, and contribution is leaving a legacy. So, sorry, I have all these things on me. So, integration happens because of the human vessel that we have. See, I learned that this human body is an instrument. Our life, our experiences, it's kind of like the music sheet in the song. And our voice is actually what reveals that music sheet in that song. And it shows whether that instrument is in harmony or not. So our voice does reveal what the instrument knows before even our own mind does. And coherence helps us understand that and, get into that. So bioacoustic biology shows us that to listen to what the body is saying. The voice is not just sound. It is the signal of the system. Because when we really learn to listen to ourselves and to others, there is that harmony that could be heard. We can hear stress patterns and tension and overload. They all leave a trace in the voice. Emotional burdens show up in the voice. Energetic coherences also show up in the voice. You can hear that in people's voice. Physiological strains show up. Hidden strengths show up. So, yeah. And then we come to coherence creating joy. Coherence is not just, something that you attain one time and then you get into it and now you're in coherence. Coherence is a state that we learn to get into, we continuously come into, and we continuously go out of coherence. And that is completely okay, because part of life, part of being back into the human is to be able to, go in between and to basically create that path to coherence, make it stronger. Because when you do, you realize that it's really joy. Coherence creates joy for us. And that's not always excitement. Joy, sometimes it's just very subtle. It's a quiet spaciousness, steadiness. It's the absence of inner war. It's a feeling of peace, no trying, just being. So joy is coherence made visible. When what we feel and how we live speak the same language. That was from a presentation I did on coherence and joy. So coherence begins in the smallest choices, right? Every choice is a vote for the life we choose to live or we wish to live. And when we understand that, we start to look at our choices different. Every choice that we make affects our state of being. So what we consume, what we rehearse in our mind, what we stay connected to, who we stay connected to, it's always a choice whether we betray ourselves or whether we finally listen and, go from the heart space. So the conversation does continue, I promise. My name is Leena Zafary. You can find me on withme.so/Leena Zafary. But lately I've noticed that you could just Google me, because the digital footprints that has been created so far feels like a whole PR team. So you can always find me that way. And when you do, you can send me a message with the word like, and I'll be happy to send you a preview of my new book, a chapter. This book kind of was downloaded, and it's very interesting because the name and the topic is so interesting, like, but you know what? Today, listening to all the presentations, and Dr. Kesam, your presentation also brought another awareness to me about the different stages. But I realized that when we do our work, we can kind of see the work from the state that it was created. And I'm very, very excited to share this book with everybody. But that is the end of my presentation. And I don't know how much time I have left, but that is all that needs to be spoken. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. It has been a pleasure.
Beautiful. And your message really reminds us that awakening is not just about what we experience, but how we embody all of those experiences into service and compassion and everyday living. So amazing talk. Thank you. Wonderful. Our next speaker is going to be Gary Wimmer. Gary Wimmer is the author of A Second in Eternity and a lifelong student of consciousness, intuition, and psychic development. Following a profound near-death experience in 1977, Gary gained extraordinary insights into the nature of life, higher consciousness, and the spiritual purpose behind humanity's challenges. For decades, he has shared his experiences, guiding with others, helping people navigate uncertainty with greater awareness, hope, empowerment, and hope. Today, Gary will be speaking on growth during turbulent times and how we can find the light even in the midst of darkness. Please join me in welcoming Gary Wimmer. Welcome, Gary. Glad you're here.
Thank you, and what a pleasure to be among such bright, curious, smart, seeking souls. Because if we don't seek, if we don't ask questions, if we're not curious, we don't go very far. We don't learn much. So, and to Leena, choice. Girl, you nailed it. Thoughts, intentions. That's the most powerful thing we ever have, is our free will. I learned this a long time ago because I went through a lot of depression as a teenager, especially as a musician. I wasn't a good singer. I was a musician since 1963. Never thought I'd do it professionally, but I was an electrical engineer in college in 1970 and a war protester, and it was Vietnam. And I thought, wow, I ain't going to work for the defense industry, that's for sure. So 2 years later, it was still defense work. So I thought, well, hell with this, I'll play music. And I ended up doing that most of my life. But when I was a teenager, even as a young kid, I grew up with quite a few brothers here. I'll show you this. The picture with my mom at the top center. Right next to her is me and my older two brothers, a double and a triple Sagittarius. Obviously, they kind of drove me nuts my whole life. Very strong personalities. I played music most of my life. Like I said, I didn't plan on being a professional musician, but after college and serving 2 years as a conscientious objector in Austin, Texas, to not have to be drafted into Vietnam, I decided to play music professionally, and I ended up doing it most of my life. I was an actor for a short period of time. There's some of the stuff I worked in. I didn't go very far, and Tom Cruise is very safe. I'm no threat. But I enjoyed acting because the last 30 years of my life, I played music as a soloist, and it was just me and a microphone and a guitar. So movies gave me a lot of creativity around a lot of people, and I enjoyed it. 1977, I quit traveling on the road. I was going through a lot of turmoil, change, as indicated by all the signs I was seeing. And this was 1977, January 31st. I remember the day. I quit the band. I moved back into a small little duplex with two roommates who I didn't know that well. And within 24 hours, life had changed. I start picking up what people are thinking, who's going to call on the phone, what time. Someone would say, I'm going to come over in a while. I'd look at the clock and it'd jump up to 2:14. And I'd know instantly that 2:14, they were going to walk by the door. I was having all these questions. I mean, like I had never had. And within 24 hours, I couldn't imagine what normal life was like. I'd walk down the store and I could see people passing me. I could pick up their thoughts. This mystical, accelerating, increasing psychic ability just kept going. And by the third day, I was both terrified and enlightened. I had never felt so empowered, but I also never felt so terrified because what's going on? And who pushed this button? And how can I get out of it? Where does it end? And it seemed like everybody I was talking to was talking in symbols, in signs, talking about going somewhere and so forth. Uh, then on 1977, on February 7th, after a week of going through this incredible escalating psychic ability, predicting everything, freaking my friends out and me, I had felt these sense of monitors like guides sort of looking over me. And that's one thing that gave me a little bit of feeling of safety, protection, something knows what's going on, even if I don't. After 7 days, I was pacing down Guadalupe Street. I was pretty terrified. I was crying. I was scared. I couldn't take it anymore. And there was a whole crowd of people around me, and they didn't know what to do. And I certainly didn't think they could help. All of a sudden, this terrifying fear disappeared, and I felt this warmth of, and I looked up. It's middle of February, and I'm warm. And there's this huge light over my head, just like that picture, sort of. I looked around to all these people in the street who'd been observing me. None of them noticed it, and I didn't care. I looked back up to the light, and then I realized it was a crystal table about that thick, and there were these 7 white-robed, gray-robed monitors, guardian angels, above me. And I said, "You're the monitors." They said, "Yes. Do you trust us?" And I said, "Well, I don't understand what's going on." Shh. Do you trust us? They had to ask that question a couple times. And I finally thought, yeah, they're making more sense. And now the fear's gone. And long story short, within just a couple of seconds, I was hit head on by a speeding car. I went to infinite mind. I immediately started leaving my body after I hit the car. I could see my body tumbling over the car. I started spreading outward in all directions, like the surface of a balloon. And I instantly realized that's how we leave the body. Our psyche, our soul expands like a balloon. When we're born, our soul collapses in from all edges of the universe to the mother at birth, and we get an impression of the whole universe. It was so obvious to me, although I didn't know who I was. And these sensations of growth and expansion, the whole earth came into my being, the whole solar system collapsed inside me, planets, galaxies, and the whole universe. And by this time, I had no idea who I was. It was pure sensation, fearless and beautiful. Then I was shot through this tunnel of light that seemed to be formed by all these galaxies. And that's a good description. Silver and white clouds spinning around like this and me being shot through them. And I came out the other side into this infinite sky blue void. And it was infinite mind. And I instantly realized it. And there was 2 possibilities. Infinite mind either exists, which it does, unbiased and unlimited, which makes everything possible, or it would not exist and nothing would exist. There's no in between. Guess which one happened? So here I am experiencing infinite mind, infinite creativity with no awareness of who I am. Then I'm pulled back through this tunnel of light, almost as if I had been observing it rather than being at one with it. This was kind of scary. Excuse me, my camera's kind of wobbling here. This was kind of scary, but I had no choice. I felt like I was being pulled back by what I called spiritual gravity in the book I wrote about this, A Second Eternity. I got real close to Earth, still no awareness of myself, but I saw 3 series of pictures. One is about all this stuff we've been going through and have been since 77. I saw COVID-19 and I saw 9/11. I saw all these situations of war and great geographical changes and, corruption. And then I saw the other side of this, which is the age of Aquarius, which is beautiful, which everything works better and but we're here, that's there. There's a big gap as we go into the age of Aquarius. Then I saw 3 series of pictures. Well, the third series of pictures was about me. I had no idea it was me. I saw a psychic playing guitar, and then I saw my body. I jumped into my body. I leaped to my feet. People are screaming and hollering. The driver's trying to calm me down. The car's all banged up. I didn't feel anything except ecstasy. I had just been to heaven. And I was just going to walk home, but they said, man, wait, cops, police, they're all on their way. And they came, and nobody could believe my story. They didn't know how I was hurt, not get hurt. I wanted to just walk home, but they wouldn't let me. They took me to the emergency room, uh, x-rayed me, no damage. Then they sent a psychiatrist in to talk to me, who I knew his name. I knew, in fact, I'd seen premonitions of this whole series of events I didn't know involved me. But the psychiatrist knew his name, knew all about him, blew him away. I asked him if I could go home, and they said, no, we're going to have to commit you to a psychiatric hospital. And I didn't care. I'd been to heaven. You can do anything with me. They put me in jail for 2 days so I could get an order of protective custody signed. And I went to Shoal Creek Hospital and was committed there for 2 weeks, 10 days. Everybody loved me. I played music for them all. Even my own psychiatrist was mind blown when I was telling him about his kids. He had 2 sons, and nobody could understand what I'd went through and why, much less me. At the end of a 10-day stay, I went before a board of psychiatrists and said, my story's the same. I ain't changing it. This is what happened. You guys psychiatrists, you should look into this. They released me. I kept asking my guides over and over and over, why me? What did I possibly do to deserve this? And it turned out that finally, 8, 9 months later, I felt them in my front yard. I was playing my guitar on the porch and I could feel them. Couldn't see them this time. But they told me in a very low voice, at the same time I saw this like screen credits in the distance, you had this experience because you always wanted to know, you're always asking, you studied psychic ability, you were always asking about God and Jesus and wanted to know the rules and blah, blah. And so you could handle the truth, and we took you and showed you and brought you back. And you have to watch your emotions. You're extreme. I'm a double Scorpio. I'm bipolar. I've been through all kinds of ups and downs. But that was the second most beautiful day of my life because they actually told me why this happened. In 1980, I met a very gifted psychic named Alice Worrell. Beautiful, smart, genius woman. She was especially good at past lives. And in the time I met her, 1980 to when she passed away about 10 years ago, we became great personal friends. And she told me about 30, 35 different people I'd had past lives with and so forth. And then when she passed away, before she passed away, I asked her to be my guide because I give readings, and she is. She taught me this method of giving readings called lithomancy. In a nutshell, I use 16 stones. 10 of them represent planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. The other 6 stones are love, life, luck, commitment, timing, and place. I do most of them over the phone now because I can't travel. I'm disabled. It's hard. But when I do them over the phone, people say drop. I drop the stones. I read them from 12 o'clock, like a clock, around to 3 o'clock, to 6 o'clock, to 9 o'clock, and record the reading. And I wrote this book on lithomancy because a couple years ago, about 10 years ago, I realized there's nothing really written on it. So here's my book. And that pretty well finishes my my presentation here. I see that. And so again, it's an honor to be with you folks. I'd be glad to take any questions or shut up and move on. But Yvonne, thank you. And to all you speakers, thank you. And really appreciate what you're doing. We need to be curious, to get higher consciousness, to believe, to have faith, to think outside the box, believe in the impossible. Because if we don't believe in the impossible or the doable or the potential, we ain't going to make it happen. Stay inspired, folks. Stay curious. Love you.
Thank you, Gary. That was fascinating. And lithomancy, I've never heard of that. I want to check out that book. So thank you.
A litho means stone. Mancy means divination by, so it's divination by stone. I never knew it about it all, but when the lady did the reading for me, I liked it because it's very intuitive. I didn't have to remember anything except I know what the astrology stones mean and figured out through experience. In fact, she taught me the next day I marked 16 stones with Scotch tape, Everybody who came over my house got a free reading. I started practicing immediately. So
Awesome. Is
think
that like
outside the box
website?
practice. Pardon
Is it
me?
on your website? Where can we find your books?
You can find it on Amazon or Kindle. A Second Eternity is the book about my near-death experience. Lithomancy, the psychic art of reading stones, is about this methodology. You can go to GaryWimmer.com, GaryWimmer.com. I'm an actor and a writer and a musician also, but basically I'm just doing readings and writing now. I'm not playing music, I'm not acting anymore, but you can get my contact information, email if you're interested, and I will respond ASAP. My email, by the way, is gw@GaryWimmer.com. So if you're interested, email
Wonderful.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll do
Thank you all.
stick around and we'll do the Q&A at the end of the panel. And I'm sure
I'll
there's
be here, brother. I
okay.
want to say
Awesome.
one other thing. One other
Uh-huh.
thing. I noticed there's one, two, three, four, five, six women and three guys. My mom used to always say a woman should be president. Well, I had six brothers and a dad, so there's seven men in our family, eight men in her. But I always said she's right. And if you look at it, the three of y'all, the three of us, the six of y'all are twice as smart. Love
Yep.
you. Thanks.
Very wise women here tonight. I'm
Woo.
glad you pointed that out. Okay, so our final panelist is Sharon Kumara, a psychic medium, channel, spiritual counselor, author, and founder of the Kumara Academy of Transformation. Sharon's spiritual gifts were dramatically awakened through an extraordinary journey beyond the veil, including a life-changing encounter with Jesus and a return to what she recognized as her whole soul's home. For more than 2 decades, she has helped others awaken their own gifts and navigate their spiritual journeys with wisdom, compassion, and practical guidance. Today, she will share Into the Heart of Christ, what I was shown during my NDE. Please join me in welcoming Sharon Kumara. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone. Let me start my slideshow here. Wow, how do I follow all of that amazing, those amazing presentations? So amazing. I mean, the energy is just through the roof here. Whew, I'm already buzzing. Okay, thank you, Sean. So my presentation is called Into the Heart of Christ, what I was shown during my NDE. My name is Sharon Kumara. I am now a psychic medium, intuitive counselor, and metaphysical teacher, and as Sean mentioned, founder of the Kumara Academy of Transformation. So I thought I'd share a little bit about life before my NDE and then after the NDE and then after. I was a psychic kid like a lot of us. I was raised Catholic, so those two didn't jive very well. So I repressed my abilities. Fast forward into my adulthood, I had a 30-year plus career in the corporate world, and I did party hard in my adulthood. I did not have a spiritual center or anything like that. I didn't really resonate with the Catholic teachings, nothing against Catholicism. It just wasn't what I resonated with. My parents were divorced when I was young, and we ended up living with my grandmother for a little while, and she was very strict Catholic. And I would fight her to go to church because I didn't like it. So I didn't really have a spiritual center. And then my stepfather passed in 1998, and I had never lost anyone close to me. That day that he passed, I saw his spirit moving toward me, walking toward me, and then he went past me. And I heard him say, "How do I get out of here?" He also, after he died, he left a message on my mother's answering machine. And it was his voice. He has a very distinct voice. And like I said, I was a partier. And a few days after he died, I was doing drugs with my ex-partner at the time. And I felt my dad's spirit next to me, just as strong as anything. And I heard him say in my mind very strongly, what are you doing? You're killing yourself. And I quit at that moment because I couldn't do it. I realized, well, first of all, my dad can see what I'm doing. And I'm like, I could feel I was getting addicted. I could feel it. And he knew exactly what to say to make me stop. So that's when I started opening up my gifts again at that time. And I wanted to know what happens when we die. I knew there was something more than just heaven and hell and purgatory, what I was taught growing up. There had to be something more. And so I started reading everything I could get my hands on about the afterlife. I started with George Anderson's book, We Don't Die, and read James von Prague, um, John Edward, all of those. And while I was studying about the afterlife, I started having spontaneous sleep paralysis episodes, which can be very scary if you don't know what they are. I thought I was dying. I felt a presence in the room with me. I felt someone was sitting on my chest or sitting next to me on the bed. And then I came across an article that equated what out-of-body experiences, which I had no idea what they were at the time, with sleep paralysis episodes. And one of the benefits of having conscious out-of-body travel uh, was to find your loved ones on the other side. So I thought, okay, this is a really good way to find my dad and know that he does exist still, and he's not gone. Even though I could feel him, I needed to know exactly what he was doing and where he was. And that's kind of a prelude to my NDE because there's relevance here. One day in Texas, in New Braunfels, Texas, I was floating down the Guadalupe River with my girlfriends, June 11th, 2001. We had a great day on the river. This is an actual photo of the Guadalupe River. And we went to the shuttle bus at the end of the day to go back to our cars at the outrigger. And we went to get on the bus, and the bus was full. So I got on first with my group, and I started to turn around, and they said, no, come on, we'll just cram onto the bus. It was one of those little school buses that holds 13, and there was 20 or 25 people. My back was up against the back emergency exit door. And as he's driving down the road and shifting through gears, I was thrown up against the emergency exit door, and the door popped open, and I fell out of the bus. And I landed on the trailer hitch, bounced underneath the trailer, and I thought, I can't believe I'm falling out of this bus. I end up on my side, and the trailer runs over my head and my neck. And it was at that moment that I left my body through my head. And I knew that I was going to die because I screamed in my head, stop, you're killing me. And I left my body. And I was floating above my body, looking down at my body, and I had no fear. I was at peace. I felt no attachment to my physical body. And I thought, all right, I've done this many times before. This is just another time. I've had many lifetimes before this. This is just another time when I'm done. I'm finished with this lifetime. I did feel bad for my friends because I was thinking we had a really great day on the river, and here I go and die on them. Those were my thoughts. And then I thought about my family and my sister, who I was really close to, and my partner at the time. And I thought they'll be fine. They'll get over it. And then I thought about my mom. And when I thought about my mom, I felt a presence behind me. And I turned around, took my attention off the earth plane, and saw my dad standing there. And he told me it's not my time. That was the first thing he told me. And I told him, but I want to stay with you. I really missed him terribly. And he told me, we were speaking telepathically, that my job here, my life was not finished. I still had a lot to do, and that my mother needed me for certain things. She was going to pass soon. He didn't say when, but she did pass 18 months later. And then as I'm communicating with him, I feel a portal open to my right. And there was a tunnel there that I recognized as the ancestor tunnel. and I'm drawn toward it. And I recognize the ancestors that I would recognize in this lifetime, and those that I know are my ancestors, but I wouldn't recognize in this lifetime. And I can tell by the looks on their face that this was not a celebration, that I was not meant to stay. And as I am being drawn toward the tunnel, another portal opens up beyond that one, and it's as bright as the sun. And I am drawn to that portal, and I see a figure moving out of that portal, and I recognized him, even though I didn't really have a connection with him during my life, a conscious connection, but I recognized him as Jesus Christ, as Yeshua. I call him Yeshua. And I flew to him because I missed him terribly, even though I didn't even know that I missed him. And the first thing he says to me is, "It's not my time," when we embraced. I told him I wanted to stay with him. And he chuckled and he said, "It's you have more work to do." And he lifted my chin and asked me to look in his eyes. This was telepathic. And as I looked in his eyes, I saw the universe in his eyes. And as I'm gazing in his eyes, I am being drawn into the universe. I am reflecting the universe from my eyes into his. We are becoming that part of us, which is who we are. We have within us. And then the light, I felt warmth in my heart center, and he is shining his light, his heart center light, into my heart center. And we merge, and I become one with the light, which is tangible, intelligent. The light is, I mean, a lot of people have described it today. It's hard to put in words, and it is joy and bliss and love, pure love, pure love. Then I hear my name and he calls me back, and he asked me if I would like to go on a journey with him. And I, of course, agree. And he holds out his hand, and I take his hand, and my senses are so heightened. I can feel every line and crevice in his hand. It's completely tangible and heightened. This realm is like having a glove over our senses. And as soon as I take his hand, we go flying through the cosmos. We fly through a blue star portal. I recognize a star. It's a blue portal, a blue star. And as we move through that, we are floating above a planetoid, a planet. It's blue-green. And I recognize this planet as a home world for me. And it's an ocean planet. And I become connected with the matrix of the planetary mother. The body of the planet I recognize as a planetary mother. And I am connecting to her just like we're connected to Mother Earth here. My matrix is being activated from that planet. And then we dive down into the ocean on the planet, and I'm reunited with my aquatic family. And I recognize my family. I have a mate, I have children, I have parents, I have a community. And this is in a higher dimension. And then he calls me back and he's asked me if I'm ready to come back. And I tell him, okay, on one condition, that I remember you. I remember that, I know that you are in my life in a tangible way, and that you walk with me, you have my back, and I always can call on you, and I always know you're there in a tangible way. And he said, it's a deal. I returned back to Earth. I was in the hospital for 5 hours. I jumped up and ran to the side of the road after I came back into my body. They picked me up. They x-rayed me. I was fine. My hair was falling out because I had tire tracks across my head. And I had a lot of road rash. My body was banged up, but nothing was broken. I didn't have a concussion or anything like that. They were amazed. One nurse said it was a miracle. And then my healing began after that. And since I was an out-of-body traveler, my out-of-bodies started replaying my NDE. And I was spending each night in meditation with Christ, with Yeshua. I eventually remembered him, and integration. I think it was Leena that talked about remembering our past life or our NDEs and past lives. It's a huge integration, and it happens for me anyway. It wasn't instantaneous, but it happened in increments because my psyche would not be able to take that, yeah, all at once. It was way too much. And I remembered a life or soul review during this experience, and Christ helped me bring up repressed childhood memories. I did not remember a lot of my childhood, most of my childhood, and so needed to heal these childhood memories. He helped me with that. He also helped me with critical soul retrieval when it came to past lives that were fragmented, and he helped me with that work as well. And I remembered from source to awareness, where I was remembering deep, deep soul memories of galactic wars. I was seeing extraterrestrials in my room. And I know now, but there was a lot of what I was repressing had to do with that too. I was sitting in council meetings, observing council meetings. A lot of Atlantean memories came up, and that a lot of us are here to to correct some things from Atlantis, is what I remembered, myself being one of them. Then I remembered that I agreed to all of this, all of it, uh, and that it was something that I and others decided to come to the planet for this mission. I see my time's up. Sorry.
You're okay if you want to wrap it up, just since we
Okay. Yes, I'm at the end. Yes, thank you, thank you.
yeah.
So we have a Kundalini awakening and a dark night of the soul. And Gary was talking about some time in the wards. I actually spent a week there myself. Yeah, and because it was a lot. Christ called it my quickening. And here's just some tools that helped me along the way that Christ helped me with, which I'm sure everyone here knows. This is a huge awakening conference. But anyway, just some things that helped me along the way completely. Okay. And I was shown our future, that we just, as Gary was saying, and we are the end of an age, and when Christ returns, a Christ consciousness, age of Aquarius, and we are going through a detox. And the future is amazing, amazing. And we are becoming our higher selves and responsible members of the galactic community. And I was shown my future, where I am now, and Christ kept his promise. And this is my contact info if anyone wants to. And I am an author. Huge deal for me. It took me 10 years to write my book, and Awakened Soul. Thank you. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you.
The thing that I was struck with is how your experience so beautifully illustrates the one encounter with unconditional love can not only change a person, but change their whole purpose. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's get started with the Q&A, and I've been going through some in the chat, and some have been sent to me privately. So we'll go ahead and I'll do the ones that were sent to me, starting with Holly. So the question is, Holly, how many experiencers in your research and what you've been doing tell you that everyday life can sometimes be more difficult than the NDE or the SDE, and just trying to come back into life and integrate? And of the 5 elements in your shift method, Which one do you find people struggle with the most?
Ah, okay. Well, the first thing you asked, I had what I call my 2 years of hell. Like after my experience, it started about month 4 and lasted almost 2 years, where every day it's like every relationship I had almost was stressed. I felt like I was repelling people instead of thinking, oh, we almost lost you. We want you in our lives. We want you closer. I felt like it was more of a this. And so it was really a struggle to get reintegrated for me. And for me, I did a hypnosis session 2 years later, but kind of I was just getting out of it and it really pulled me out. That was so helpful to have that done on my experiences. I learned a lot. And then out of the shift, surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation. I'm gonna say surrender, the very first one. It's funny that surrender is the beginning and transformation is the end of the word, and you can't have one without the other. But I feel like until you surrender, you really can't have any of the others that you join you. So that's what I would say. Thanks.
Yep, I agree. I think that's one of the things about the NDE. It's kind of a forced surrender, especially when you're on the vents. Thank you. Okay, so Leena, um, so you speak about the challenge of integrating heightened sensitivity and expanded awareness into ordinary life. How can experiencers tell the difference between being overwhelmed by their gifts and actually learning to work with them in a healthy way?
Mm. How can, well, it takes time. It's there's no bypassing. It is you have to go through the process. I mean, it's bringing what you felt, experienced, and sensed, and all that from them from your consciousness and embody it into the body. And that embodiment is what helps you do that, because we can get lost in the spiritual part of it, in the story of it, in the journey of it. And then when we come back into the physical body, there's a disconnect. So I found that coherence and joy, well, coherence creates joy, but you know you're in coherence when you start to feel joy. And coherence is something you have to take intentional steps into getting into, which means you got to learn to align your thoughts, calm your mind, and also align and calm your emotions to match the frequency of the mind. And that right there creates the coherence. And when you're there, honestly, it's kind of like being back into that space. You just feel it, you know. And if you've had experiences where you've been with the divine, it's like a vacuum. Coherence pulls you into the space of light. And you know your soul, you know your connection. And the more you get into it, because there's short moments of coherence, and it's not something that lasts forever. It's something that you get into and you pop out, and it's okay. But you're supposed to get into it often enough to where coherence becomes a big space you enter into, and you can stay longer. And from there, well, that's where all the magic happens.
Beautiful answer. Really great. Thank you. Okay, Gary. So you spent decades reflecting on the insights from your last 1977 NDE. So looking at the uncertainty and rapid changes that we're experiencing today in the present timeline, what is the single most important lesson that people here could apply right now from your experience and your story?
I think it's a couple things, but I'll boil it down to this. Don't worry about what you can't change, because there are 10 billion things we can't change about humanity and hate and stupidity and on and on and on. Concentrate on what you can change. That's the most powerful gift we have. That's free will. We all got it. And regardless of our situation, we're not stuck looking at it from one point of view, because we can always change our point of view. And when we look at things from a new perspective, a new, fresh point of view, like, oh, I'm looking at this side instead of this side, we see new things. We come to different conclusions. We can make different decisions and get different results. So even if we're stuck in life, and even though we're all going through this intense, extreme period, And like I tell everybody, life's not being cruel. It's showing us all the flaws in ourselves and in our system so we can get busy with some duct tape and start fixing them, period. Because you can't fix a leak in the pipe if you don't believe in leaks or if you don't see it. So we're actually being blessed by higher mind kind of slapping us in the face and saying, wake up, people. We got your attention. Improve, learn, grow, and we can. People have no idea how much power they have internally. Yvonne, as you discovered, that's where the power really is. Always will be.
That's a great answer, and it really is. So often we try to change things that we have no possibility in changing. So Sharon, your encounter with Jesus was clearly life-changing. First of all, did you have a relationship with him before your experience? And then what was the most unexpected lesson or realization that you brought back from that experience, especially that might be different with what your preconceived notions or beliefs or teachings were of Jesus?
Yes, I did not have a relationship with Jesus beforehand. I knew who he was. I believed he was real, but I did not have a conscious relationship with him. And what I brought back, well, it unfolded with me over quite a few months, was that he helped me remember that there's only one thing that's real, and that is that we are love. Everything else is illusion and our creations. There isn't anything that we haven't created around us. And like Gary was saying, anything that we don't align with uh, is something we still brought to us. However, why why worry about it? That type of thing. Yeah, totally. And so what he helped me understand is that I am responsible for everything in my life. And if I have anything that is if I'm being triggered with anything, it's because there are still things unhealed within me. I still have something unhealed that I need to work on and look at that. And that took me a little while to understand that. But yeah, it doesn't mean I don't get triggered once in a while. But I realize now, okay, something's going on within me that I haven't healed. And so I sit and look at it. And he has taught me to take care of things in the moment rather than later on, because later on never happens. Yeah.
You know, that's beautiful. And a wise person said that basically awakening is just taking 100% complete responsibility for your life, which is what you just shared. That's very helpful. Let's go back to Holly. And somebody would like to know how was your family towards you after this experience? What was that like?
Yeah. Well, like I said on the last question, that 2 years it was interesting. I'm from a big family. We've raised 8 kids and have 19 grandkids, and I'm from a family of 9, so huge family. And you really find out who has your back, who understands, who is really there for you, and when you go through hard times. And so it's way better now, but I struggled. I really struggled for those 2 years. So some were great and some were not. And I would say most were not, unfortunately. But we just keep moving forward, and maybe they just didn't understand, and maybe I didn't understand, but we make it the best we can, and hope we can all just get along in the same planet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I think that's the thing. They don't understand. And, after mine, several years later, I heard this beautiful quote that said, ask not the sparrow where the eagle flies. And I wished I'd known that back then, because I was asking everybody who'd not experienced this. So, of course, they can't give us the understanding we want.
Yeah.
How about you, Leena? What was it like for you after your experience and with your family and
Oh my goodness, what a great question. I couldn't have planned a better question. It's funny. The book that I just wrote, literally came from that. And the reason why is because there's no fault here. It's just a matter of, the way I looked at it, the first few years, my life was a roller coaster, and even I did not know it. I didn't understand it. Even when I found language, it took me time to comprehend the enormity of what happens to somebody in this kind of an experience. So I realized that how could they even begin to understand what I couldn't understand, and I was in it. So as you can imagine, relationships, every relationship was tested. Every relationship was tested. And you know what? Over the past 10 years, I had to rebuild every relationship. And in those micro little decisions, all of a sudden, this book was just, like I felt like it was like downloaded, but it just came together so perfectly right before this conference. And I guess if you don't believe in synchronicities, this is it. But yeah, that book right there is the answer to that question in a short sentence.
Wonderful. How about you, Gary? What was it like for you to afterwards, and how was your family, and how was it to integrate?
After my NED, you're talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I instantly, after I came back into my body, in no time at all, I believed in miracles. Instantly, it was obvious to me. I just went through one. Now, that doesn't mean I believed I could push any button and make anything happen, but I did believe in them, and I started building on that because of, frustrations with trying to make a living playing music, uh, girls making a living, apartments, all these questions I had. And I started asking my guides immediately to help me. And I encourage everybody to do that, because they're not going to manifest a body and whisper in your ear or text you, yeah, I got your message. They're going to talk to you through signs, feelings, patterns, numbers, things we might consider coincidences, but there's no such thing. Everything manifests by cause and effect. Something makes something happen. And we have the power of cause and effect too. You want to learn to play the cello? Get a cello, watch YouTube, practice, you'll be a cello player, or anything. Reach your higher mind. We have no idea how unlimited we are internally, and I urge all people, just like all you folks do, to seek power inside, because we can always change the way we look at things, and that's the best gift of free will. Believe, be curious, ask, and be patient. We don't get everything immediately. In fact, we don't get everything we work for or ask for, but 8 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 is better than 0 out of 10 because we didn't try or believe.
Right. Beautiful advice. And Sharon, so how was it for you with your family and everything?
Well, I didn't have a lot of family at the time. It's just my sister, and a lot of things I couldn't share with her. Well, I take that back. I did share with her, but she couldn't relate. So she listened. But relationships were falling apart. People were falling off, my friendships and things like that. So it wasn't easy. And like, you spend a week in the psych ward and you realize that it's the crazy world out here. And the people in the psych ward are the ones that are saying, they're the ones that are waking up and saying, what's going on here? So, yeah, it was not easy. The year of 2003 was the year that everything just blew up for me, where I was having STEs back to back, basically. And yeah, you just start to see through the veil and realize this is what we created, and it's a crazy world, and I can maneuver better. I'm not a victim of anything, of anything. And yeah, so it wasn't easy. I don't wish it on anybody, that's for sure, but I had to go through it.
Beautiful. We are so grateful to all of you for sharing your amazing experiences and how you have integrated and how you've taken those experiences to be of service to others and help others. So it's been an honor to be with you.